Okay everyone, in a previous video I did a demo where a character would descend and at an increasing speed because of gravity, and that when you hit a button a parachute would be deployed and then it would slow them down. What I said I would do is at a future time a video where I demonstrated a similar mechanic but with a thruster. So in that case, it's not that you're just slowing your descent, but you're actually ascending. You can actually make your character fly, but when you let go of the thrusters, that your character would start to descend again. So with the parachute, it was a one-off. You deploy the parachute and that's it. Your character slows down. With the thruster, you can slow your character or make your character ascend, and then when you let go of the thruster, when you disengage the thruster, the character begins to descend again. So the one thing I've done ahead of time is I went ahead and created the particle system. It's a visual effect and nothing else. It doesn't really functionally do anything other than display the particles. It doesn't actually impact the actual ascent or descent. So let's go ahead and drag and drop our stickman. Drag and drop our thruster twice because we're going to have one for each hand. Lining them up. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to drag and drop the thruster on top of the stickman. The reason for that is it makes the thrusters children and it makes the stickman a parent. The reason for this is that way if you move the parent, the stickman, the thrusters will move as well. You don't have to do separate code to make sure that they're moving in a synchronized manner. They'll automatically move. It's important to note though that the stickman really isn't aware of the thrusters per se. The object really isn't aware of the thrusters. The children are just inheriting the motions or rotations or whatever else is being done to the stickman. But the stickman can't actually make changes per se. So that's one of the things that we have to accomplish with the code. So first, for the stickman, while they're highlighted, we're going to do add component physics 2D, Rigidbody 2D. By default, it has no linear drag, and at default, it has a gravity scale of 1. So let's watch how that works. Character descends, and the thrusters go with them. We're not going to add a collider box like in the other video because we're not looking at collisions. We are going to add a new script, and we'll call this thruster control. And let's go ahead and open that script up. And the bulk of this script is really one concept repeated a few different times. So let's go ahead and go to the text file where I have everything written. Don't worry, I'm just going to copy and paste it a little at a time, and I'll explain everything. So first thing, public transform left thruster, public transform right thruster. It's a transform, so it's an object. And since there's two thrusters, I need two variables. Public key code, so it's looking for input. Excel, you can call it whatever you want. It's going to make this is the toggling of the thruster on and off. So two transforms for the objects, one for the key code. So let's save that and watch how that affects stickman. You can see they're over here now. So just drag and drop the thruster object onto the thruster variable, thruster object onto the thruster variable, and the key will be the back, oops, sorry, not the backspace, just the regular space. So now, because we've done that, now the stickman is aware of the thruster objects, and using the code that's attached to the stickman can reach out and make a change to the thruster objects. So let's see what that looks like. So as you could see when we ran it, by default the particle systems are on. So what we're going to do is in the start we're going to shut them off. So normally you've seen me use the get component statement, and it changes something about the object that that the script is attached to. So get component in a script will change an object that the script is attached to. Well, the script is not attached to the thrusters, but we want to make a change to the thruster. That's why we did this. So now we don't have to make a separate script for the thruster and try to synchronize the activity. We made the stickman object aware of the thruster objects. So now we can reach out and make a change to them. So left thruster, get component particle system, enable emission, false. So obviously got some, if you've never seen get component before, you've got some odd syntax here, like this is and this aren't meant to be greater than and less than signs, or should I say less than and greater than signs. That is the object, that is the character that's being used, but it's meant to be like parentheses. You're saying what part, what component. It's the particle system component, and you've got two brackets here with nothing in between them. So if you can get past the kind of odd syntax, it's pretty straightforward what you're doing. You're saying, okay, this object, get the particle system component, shut off the emissions, and then rinse and repeat for the right thruster. Get component particle system, enable emissions. Okay, and I just zoomed in a little bit to make it a little bit easier to see. It's pretty straightforward. You're just shutting the thrusters off. So let's save that and we'll see what that does. See? No thrusters. And it's pretty much what you're going to see is just modifying that, just toggling that on and off. If open parenthesis input.getKey open parenthesis Excel close close. So a couple things to note. Excel, that's the variable we made up here, because you can make multiple key codes. In this case we only need one. Get key, this is vital. Most of the time you see me use get key down or get key up, and what that does is it looks at a single frame where the key is pressed and when the key is let go. When you do get key, it really doesn't care what state as far as, well, I shouldn't say what state, but as long as the key is being pressed, this is true. So it's not a one-off, it's not okay, it's in the down position or it's in the up position. It's just looking to see if it's still being pressed. So whereas the other ones are a one-off, this is ongoing. And as I've mentioned in the past, this is really how you do rapid fire. Now in this case, you're not shooting per se, but it is functionally like rapid fire, where you want this to happen again and again and again, as long as the button is still held. And this should look incredibly familiar. It's exactly the same thing. Left thruster, get component particle system, enable emission. Now we're setting it to true, in other words, turn it on. Same thing for the right thruster. This one I remarked out. You can remark out statements with the double /, and this would really be for game balance. If, say, you want to alter how fast they fall, or alter some other aspect of the the rate in which they're dropping. If you want to tweak that, you can modify the drag. And if you notice, it's not applied to left or right thruster because it's the stickman object itself that has the gravity scale applied to it and the drag applied to it. So in this case, you're telling the stickman, okay, let's change the drag. I remarked it out because it's really not necessary, but I just want to let you know that's out there in case you want to tweak and balance that particular aspect of the gameplay. Get component Rigidbody 2D, but what we are going to do though is we're going to change the gravity scale of the stickman, and it becomes -1. So it goes from it goes from +1, as you can see over here, it goes from +1 to -1. And now for the last piece of this. So the first part says if the key is being pressed, else, again, almost identical. Left thruster, get component particle system, enable emission, false. Right thruster, get component. Oops, sorry about that. enable emission, false. So again, you're making these exact statements again. So it looks like a lot of code, but it really isn't. It's the same idea repeated. And what we're doing here is just as we made the gravity scale -1, here we're making the gravity scale +1. So if the key is being pressed, turn the particles on, reverse the gravity scale. Else, if the key isn't pressed, shut off the particle systems and put the gravity scale back to default. And that's it. You're going to see how this works now. So as I hit the keyboard, you can see he slows and then he starts to accelerate and he drops again. And you can kind of rapid fire, like if you're trying to make your character hover and not necessarily extend. So all kinds of applications for this. So whether you're just using it as a landing mechanic or if it's the primary form of travel. So you can do a hover with a rapid tap. That's about it.